kúrò lẹ́wọ̀ kalẹ̀ o. Mo dẹ̀ kí bàbá Akíntóyè wọ́n mọ̀ mí dáadáa. Wọ́n dẹ̀ mọ iṣẹ́ tá à ń ṣe, and I appreciate the opportunity that's been given to me. I will start by saying that. Hello.
Hello, I'm listening to you.
Okay, sir. That the question that we face is not actually a question of differentiation between royal restructuring or independence or anything, but the roadmap, the pathway that we need to address our issues, which have been flowing, which had been flowing from up to the independence struggle, up to all the issues that we have been facing since 1966. So the question is actually one of decolonization. How do we not only maximize it, but how do we entrench it? So, and all the issues that we know, we don't need to go into all that now. Baba Deti sọ̀rọ̀ lórí quite a lot of it. But the two major issues that I want to raise is one, clarify the question of referendum as far as the Yoruba Referendum Committee is concerned. Two, the question of how it's going to happen. So the first question of clarification is this, that we started out by saying that the referendum has to be conducted to give it validity, legitimacy, and in terms of integrity, it has to be carried out by Yoruba people through recognized and legitimate government, agency. And he mentioned that it has to be by election and all the rest of it, and polling booths and all that. And we have a legitimate agency to do that, which is the State Houses of Assembly. Now, the question of whether the federal government, the central government, because it's not a federal government, the central government will allow it or not is part of the essence of what we are doing when we started the petition we started on our own. That the aim of the petition is to create a movement, a mass movement that will put pressure on the Houses of Assembly and the governors to, well, I won't say bow, but to accept our demand and carry what we want to carry out. Now, the central government can do anything. They can do anything they want to do in terms of stopping it. But we also recognize that because we have a movement, we have already established our own legitimacy to challenge that central authority. Because the movement now, the movement has a goal, a demand to another legitimate authority, which the central government now wants to clamp down upon. So that automatically transfers the legitimacy of the Houses of Assembly to the movement itself. And by so doing, it allows the movement to carry out any action it wants to carry out. We can't go into that now. The question of Catalonia, we know what happened in Catalonia. Yes, they did a referendum, even with the government in place. The Spanish government still clamped down on them, but we know the reaction and what is currently going on, including the collapse of the government in Madrid. And of course, we know what is going on in Scotland and the back and forth that is going on, and including the election today that will further legitimize the demand for the referendum if the SNP is able to have the majority vote. So what we are saying in our own case is to arrive at a situation where if we are able to get, yes, with the rallies and all the rest geared towards that referendum, and we are able to present that massive bill, just like Governor Akeredolu was saying, where did we hold the referendum and all that. And what Obasanjo said yesterday or day before yesterday, that we need a new federation. So we are presenting an alternative to the central authority and to the Yoruba people. But we need that massive support, massive base to give it legitimacy. If the federal government now clamps down, the central government now clamps down on that effort, like I said earlier, we have transferred that legitimacy. They will just simply be transferring that legitimacy to us, and we can then do anything we want to do with it. That's number one. Number two, how the United Nations came in. We are, in a sense, when we are talking about self-determination, Baba ẹjọ ẹ má bínú o, kì í ṣe pé mo fẹ́ rúdù sí yín o, torí nǹkan tí mo fẹ́ sọ nǹkan tẹ́yin náà mọ̀ ni. You are talking of self-expression. Most of the members, all the members of the UN Security Council were former colonial powers. And they have their different interests that they are promoting all over the world. And then if we say we want self-determination, now to go to them and say, come and save us, yet that has already sort of neutralized our quest by definition, because these are the people that put us in the problem that we are. And then if we go into each one of them separately, by the way, everything I'm saying is included in the paper that we had submitted earlier that was to be read. So everything is in there. So if we are going to go into the, if we are going to go into each one of them, we know why the United States supported referendum in South Sudan. We know they tried to counter China. They try to, all the bleeding heart liberals talking about the Janjaweed in Darfur and all the rest of them. So all those things played into it. Now this guy in Nigeria is calling for Africom to come to Nigeria. It may not be a sign of weakness. It may simply be the kind of stability that they want. So this international, like France did in Chad, when, in spite of everything, they killed the guy and then they carried out a military coup, and then they simply backed it up. So these are the different things that can play out within the United Nations. And I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, there is one guy, MJ Balogun, I presume he's a Yoruba guy. He was a consultant, a special consultant to the president of the 97th or 94th session of the General Assembly 2 years ago. And he wrote a 3-part piece that was published in Premium Times. If you read that piece, he was literally demolishing Yoruba national quest. And that was at the United Nations. So there is a lot of things that we can avoid by simply coming back home and getting the international community to recognize the legitimacy of the movement that we have created. Because once we have that, once we are able to get to that point, that we now make a formal demand on our elected, the houses of assembly and the governors, with all the things that are going on. And one, of course, they can refuse. The politicians can't do anything, but we know how to deal with these politicians. But if the opposition is now coming from the central government, like I said, it gives us the legitimacy we want. So what we need to do, like I had also counseled, is that one, for us, we are not saying we should just go and gather together somewhere, and he knows it, Baba knows it. We have been working together for a long time on this particular issue. So what we are saying is find a way. So when we hold rallies, when we do everything that we do, let us have our templates. This is where we are going. We have a template that, okay, this is the kind of situation that we want. We have the annexure in the thing. Even if Nigeria splits up into 10 different countries, there will still have to be some kind of relationship, either of peace or of war among them. So the template takes care of that. If we are going to relate with anybody, this is our condition. So it's not a question of slogans or anything, but the reality of our own existence, which we have put in paper. This is our own condition. If there's going to be any central government, any central relationship, this is how it's going to be. If there's, of course, if there's not going to be any central relationship, then that is the end of the matter. But if, whether in war or in peace, we already have the template. So these are the things that we should be asking our people. And in the paper that we have submitted, the cover page, we have a leaflet. The cover page is actually the leaflet that we are producing, that we want to be distributing now, called the Lusokwe, which is the Yoruba word that we coined for referendum. And then, so when we are doing when all these things are going on, let the people know exactly where we are headed. What are we demanding for? And take it beyond sloganeering, because sloganeering can be confusing. That is why there is this division between whether we want restructuring or we don't want restructuring. No, we are talking of existence. What we are saying is that we have a right, and of not even a right, the necessity. Language is a very important factor in development, in human development, as you can see all over the world. So we have the duty to make Yoruba language the language of instruction in our educational institutions. Even our own Babatunde Fafunwa, Fakilede, Ayobanjo, and all the rest of them. These are linguists in their own right, and they have come to the conclusion that the only way we can actually develop is through the Yoruba language. And of course, the only way you can do that is one where you have self-government or self-determination. So in general, we learn from each other, we contribute, in what we are doing. But the question of the referendum is actually the most important issue that we need to decide to work on and how to bring it about. We can't for now give any time limit on it, but we can agree on 2 or 3 things. One, that the referendum is a very vital, important thing. 2, what do we expect? What kind of Yoruba land are we looking at? Which is in the thing. That is 2. 3, the question of carrying it out, which is also probably the most important, which is how do we ensure, for purposes of legitimacy and validity and practicability, how do we ensure that our houses of assembly and our governors take on the responsibility? And that can only come about by massive pressure from below, from outside official circles, and that we should not be afraid to take them on. That is, the houses of assembly and the politicians, to take them on and make sure that this becomes the major and the most important political issue in the land under all circumstances. I think that summarizes what I need to say for now.